Hello and welcome to Scale Stuff. In this week's video I'm going to be building the Revell F-117 stealth fighter, which is actually a bomber, but hey ho, B is not a cool enough letter apparently. I've been after building one of these planes for a while, but want to practice the all black paint job on a smaller model before wasting my money wrecking a big one. In the box you get black and white instructions, two very small sets of sprues to make the kit, and a sheet of decals to finish the model off. A quick look at the sprues shows them to be quite crisp, with only a small bit of flash showing. I was surprised to find out that this kit was made in 1990, so it's aged very well, or this second-hand kit was bought 30 years ago. The kit's got a very low parts count, so this is looking like it's going to be a fast build. Anyway, onto the build. First thing on the menu is the cockpit. Quite a bit more flash here than meets the eye, but it's no hassle to clean up. The parts here are tiny though, and I'm struggling to grip them, so tweezers are a must for this build. There is a decal to add here, but I'm going to leave that off as you can't really see into the cockpit when it's done. With the tiny interior done, it's onto the wings and air intakes. I found that it pays to go around the wings with a light sand to remove the seam lines and tiny bits of flash that can be found on these parts. The fit between the wing and the main fuselage is a bit wishy-washy, so when both wings are on, I'm going to leave this to dry on a nice flat surface until the glue's properly set to avoid getting wonky wings. With that dry, it's onto a bit of pre-painting. I'm painting the cockpit in a basic coat of dungeon grey. I'm not going to go to town on this bit as it really won't be viewable and it's so small the camera's having trouble focusing on it. While the paint was drying, I masked off the cockpit glass using electrical tape. It's not the best thing to do this with, but it's all I've got to hand, so I've got to make do. Now back to construction. The tail fins don't go on the greatest here. They seem to need to be slid in sideways and with a fair bit of force to get them in. But they do go in, so no need to fuss. With them on, I added the cockpit glass to the fuselage before adding the seat. The seat's a bit iffy, as there's only a slight lip to key to, and no location ports at all on this part. So with that on and not dry, I dry fitted the bottom of the fuselage to the top to check everything was aligned right, before gluing the two parts together when I was happy with the fit. Here I decided to go off the beaten track a bit with this kit and use the spare stand from the failed 747 build to make this into a flying model, as it's been a long day at work and my hands are really not feeling up to doing tiny landing gear at the moment. All I'm going to do here is cut a notch into the bomb bay doors to fit the stand. With that on, now it's just a case of adding the landing gear flaps. And that's this model built. Nice and simple, a short build on this tiny kit. Now onto the painting. As the stealth bomber's all black, I'm going to hit the model with a couple of quick coats of rattle can black to get a nice even finish on the kit. I'm doing this off screen and outside to avoid getting high on the fumes. With that done and dry, it's onto the painting. As this is a small plane model and already really dark, I'm starting off with some highlights. As reference pictures of the real plane seem to always look a little bit dusty. For this, I'm going to be using a light dry brush of Army Painter Dungeon Grey. With that on, it's time to remove the masking tape. The electrical tapes actually work pretty well, with only a minor bit of residue left on the clear parts. I did leave the clear part masked up for 4 days though, so yeah, that can be expected. That's really my own fault. With the highlights on, now what I'm going to do is wash the whole plane with some Vallejo black that's been quite watered down to dull down the highlights and blend them into the kit. Paints on, it's now time to conclude the build by adding the decals. The guide here is not the best, as it just points to the rough area that the decal needs to go. And after application Google search shows that a lot of the decals marked on the guide are not in the correct place on this kit. So yeah, don't copy my kit for reference. Adding the decals is a fairly easy process using tweezers, but would be a nightmare without them as they're so small. With the decals, there's also quite a bit of carrier film on some of the smaller decals, but yeah, they go on okay. With the decals on though, that completes the build. And this is the finished model. I'm happy with how this simple model has come out. It served its paint mule purpose rather well, and it was nice to paint something different. But the painting stage of this kit, which is the bit I enjoy the most, was very short on this kit. In conclusion, the Revell 1 to 114th scale Stealth Fighter F-117A is an okay kit. It's simple to build, but to get a good model from this kit, you will need to have tweezers, as some decals and parts are really tiny. Some bits of the kit are not that accurate and not true to life. The worst offender for this was the decal placement marked out in the instructions. This plane is an extremely low budget build. This model cost me £3 second hand, which is less than a pint. The build certainly lasted longer than a pint, so at that kind of price, I don't think there's much cause for complaint. Anyway, that's my build and review of the small scale Revell Stealth Fighter. As always, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and it helps you out if you're building or thinking of buying one of these kits at home. Until next time though, look after yourself and have a good one. Goodbye.